Brother, it's been a couple minutes since we had a chance to catch up with you, but I mean, the world has certainly changed so much since the last time we got a chance to talk. The pandemic, civil unrest, the world waking up, I feel like, collectively in a way that we haven't seen in a really long time. How have you sort of been making the most of this moment as we kind of, reach closer towards the release of the album?
Yeah, at this point, I've been just really trying to stay educating myself, trying to focus in, trying to evolve, learn, and push. I spent a lot of time working on writing a screenplay. I've been training a lot, learning how to ride the world's biggest scooter. And
Yes.
ultimately, that has taken up a really big chunk of my time. The thing is approximately 20 feet tall. So just to get up there was an engineering feat to figure out how I could get up there with my stilts to be able to actually push off the ground and get that thing moving.
I was going to ask, that has to be custom. That has to be custom top to bottom, right? That's one of none.
Well, I helped fabricate it. I actually had a team of 18 engineers. They were 27 months. It was a rough period where we didn't really know if there was actually going to be a final product because there was actually so much technical engineering that went in and ingenuity just to get the thing to stand up right, let alone how to get a human to be able to push off using their own leg.
And the answer is stilts.
The answer is stilts, man. And as you know, I spent some time traveling with my parents in the circus. My father was a ringleader. My mother was actually working in the acrobatics department. She would do entire full-on choreographed shows with body movement that you've never seen before, man. So I grew up around this. It's nothing new to me. I'm just applying it to, a modern day action sports world, which, ultimately is a form of acrobatics in itself. What I did in the sport of scootering, the kind of body maneuvers I was working on, the varials, they're not very far off from the acrobatics that my mother used to do.
I love the fact that we're getting our hands on the project. Ugly is beautiful. An Italian author. His name is Umberto Eco. He wrote "Perfection is boring." Is there a similar sentiment on "Ugly is beautiful"?
I'm familiar with his work. He's an incredible writer. I love some of his earlier books were a little bit more, I would say, truthful and a little more honest. I'm a bigger fan of his earlier writing. But in the response to your question, ultimately perfection is not a real concept. Nothing will ever be perfect. We will never be perfect no matter how much you try to make yourself more perfect and beautiful. It's like you're never going to be really truly happy with yourself if you can't learn to accept yourself the way you are. And in the case of art, it can only be as good as we can make it before the time runs out.
That's beautiful.
And really, it's a difference between, how many years are we willing to spend trying to get it as good as we can? And the truth is, you could go forever. So what ends up happening is, in the world of economics, and basically people start to put deadlines on things so that the artist can't dwindle away making the same art piece forever. But ultimately, it waters down the product. And that's why I spent 5 years making this Ugly is Beautiful album. And you're not going to find a watered down song or a watered down bridge or a single component of it that isn't pure and authentic and raw and not something that's just made to make a cheap buck. And that's what you're going to see a lot in this commerce of the music world. And that's ultimately why I'm choosing to leave the music industry behind, is due to things like this, is the way that people are trying to sell and make music at such a fast rate. And basically, long story short, as an artist, I spend about, a month or two out of the year recording, and the rest of the time they've asked me to promote. So ultimately, what's the point? We're not even focusing on the art. We're focusing on the promotion of the art. So I've kind of reached this point where I'm like, putting up the blinders and saying, hey guys, this is the last album and it's going to be the best album I can make you guys. And I'm going to just leave it at that and leave it on a high note. And you will never see, the fall down, because there will not be any more. I'm cutting it off. The show's over. I had my release Splitting Branches in 2012. I took it off Spotify so no one could listen to it. There's a high chance I will take this album down at some point off Spotify as well.
Oliver Tree, the album is Ugly is Beautiful. You got to get it while it's still there. It could be gone before you know it. If you're going to listen to it, you got to listen to it when it drops. Again, you're broadcasting from a pocket universe right next to our own. Thank you so very much for the time today. Hopefully we will get a chance to talk to you on the other side. New music, a screenplay, maybe a 50-foot tall scooter. Who knows? Fingers are crossed.
And I will say this, I'll leave it on this note. I will have the album up for a limited time. I will intend to take it down at some point in the next year or so. So you have about a year. to be able to listen. And in that point, ultimately, depending on how the reaction is, I'll likely decide to take it down. Now, I want to make this clear. I will bring it back exclusively to the Apple streaming platform for a limited time. So when I bring it back, it will come back for a brief period on Apple exclusively. And at that point, we'll see how it lasts, but ultimately that could be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So just know the album's up for a limited time. And I want to thank you guys for taking the chance to listen and hear out some of these ideas. And ultimately, listening to the album would mean the world. So if you haven't, go check it out.